Okay, today, March 3rd, it's been a long journey to get here. And we started preparing this project almost 2 years ago. And when we met with a few partners, basically to establish a roadmap to, well, we knew this call on research infrastructures was coming. And we said, well, how are we going to prepare ourselves for this? So we had a meeting in March 2019. Well, in 2000, the call came, was open. We submitted the proposal on May 2020. And on November 3rd, we had the good news that we were going to start the discussions with the European Commission about the funding for this project. As of today, we agreed with the Commission that we started the project. We will start the project on March 1st, so 2 days ago. Almost all partners, I think it's one left, still has to sign a consortium agreement. But the signing of the grant agreement between INRAE and the European Commission is still ongoing, but the project is going to start, or has started, March 1st. So I think in March, and Jimena will tell us perhaps more about it a little bit later, but we'll sign the grant agreement in the weeks to come. You may be aware about the criteria that are being used for evaluating projects, and it basically deals with 3 issues: excellence, implementation, and impact. And you get notes for each of these criteria, you have to have certain thresholds. I'm not going to go into detail, but all 3 are important, and I would say all 3 are equally important. And perhaps if there's one more important, it's the impact. And excellence basically relates to the objectives. Why are you doing this? How does it relate to the work program of the Horizon 2020 work program? What is the concept and methodology being used? And what is the ambition? Now, if you're really interested in all of this, I recommend that you go back to the proposal, and because that's where we developed many pages on this. But what I want to do today is just illustrate a few of these aspects, how we responded to the European Commission in terms of excellence, impact, and implementation. And the overall aim of PIGWEB is to strengthen the PIG research community by providing and facilitating access to research infrastructures, reinforce a culture of cooperation between the research community and industrial and societal stakeholders, and improve and integrate the services by the research infrastructures. So the keywords are really that strengthening of the community, opening up, facilitating access, cooperate, and improve what we have. And that overall aim, we separated out into specific objectives related to the transnational access, related to the networking activities, and related to the joint research activities. And the transnational access, I'll have a few more slides about it in a few minutes, was to ensure easy and transparent access to the facilities, to the research infrastructures and associated laboratories in 9 different countries. Some of you have been, oh, sorry, this is, I thought there was another one coming up. This one is about the networking activities, the objectives of the project related to networking activities. They're long sentences, but just have a look at the images that you see on the left. It is about creating that community. It is about harmonizing protocol best practices that we use in our research settings. It is about data. How do we ensure that data is collected, managed, can be used by others, can be used by future generations of scientists? Ensure impact, ensure dissemination, exploitation, and technology transfer of the results that we have. And for the training, provide training to graduates and postgraduates and early career scientists so that they have access to the best tools to ensure a sustainable pig production. And the last part is focusing on what is called the joint research activities. It's basically research oriented on the infrastructure. It is not a research theme on a topic, but it's a research on the infrastructures. And we put a lot of focus on, or the main focus on, can we make research activities more acceptable by society by, for instance, developing non or minimally invasive methods for digestion studies, blood sampling. Are there any things that we'd like to know, but we don't have the methods or the tools or the technologies for it, related to welfare, behavior, and body composition? And based on these two aspects, the non or minimally invasive methods and the new methods that we will develop, can we provide a toolbox? Because we are dealing with biology. There's no one sensor that will tell us all about the animal. So can we provide a toolbox that users can use in their research practices? So excellence, coming back to these points, and how does it relate to the work program? An example. I'm not going to read the whole sentence because that is basically the sentence that comes from the call. But as you can see, it is about a starting community, meaning that we should not have experience doing similar things before. We've perhaps worked together on specific research questions, but we have not worked together on our research infrastructure that we have. And it should be a comprehensive consortium of the key research infrastructures. You can see the map of Europe where we are located. Everything in brown is where the partners are. And we should involve other stakeholders in the project, public authorities, technological partners, research institutions. So overall, we think we have a diversity of skills and disciplines that cover all aspects of sustainable pig production. Excellence. So the research infrastructure in the middle is really the key point. And you can see the transnational access in the top, the networking activities on the left, and the joint research activities on the bottom right. They're there, all focusing on the infrastructure. But although there's a square around the project, it is open, and it should be open, and it will be open, because we are open to the industry, to academics, because we will provide means to transnational access. We provide methods that they can use in their research. We will provide guidelines for policymakers on welfare, on animal experimentation. And we provide training opportunities for students and early career scientists. So this is something very important. We are not a closed community. We should be and are a very open community. And that's something that I will stress on for the 5 years to come. This is a slide. It comes from INRAE transfer. And what is transnational access? So what you see here is different countries in purple. You see a research infrastructure in the project, indicated by RI something. Then a partner in the project, which may or may not provide the research infrastructure, and a stakeholder. Now, what is transnational access? Well, it is not that a partner in the project is going to use the transnational access as a means to carry out its research. That will not be funded. It is not that a stakeholder from that same country is going to use the facility, the research infrastructure, in that same country for transnational access. It is not either that a partner in another country is going to use the research infrastructure of another country to do its research in the context of transnational access. But it is a case where a stakeholder from a third country can experiment in another country using transnational access as a means to do its research. Again, transnational access, 1/3 of the project budget is devoted to transnational access, meaning that these people will provide a research project which will be evaluated, and we'll talk about more tomorrow. We have different types of TNA, transnational access installations, and you can see here on the left column, it deals with feed and feed technologies, metabolism and physiology, calorimetry, behavior and welfare, body and carcass composition, production systems, and emissions. And what you see is different units of access, the ton feed week or lab week or pig week, the volume that we have, and the the budget that is dedicated to that. And you can see that it's almost 1.5 million euros. Second circle is about impact, expected impacts and measures to maximize impact. What is impact? This is a cartoon that was published some 22 years ago, saying that two citizens reading a newspaper, saying that scientists have isolated the gene that makes scientists want to isolate genes. Perhaps 22 years ago, that was the view of gene mapping. I think that has changed considerably, because we can now see much more impact. But that's important to realize what impact is. And again, this comes from INRAE transfer. What is impact? Well, during the project and with the project partner, we will generate results. But these results have to be used by users to make impact. And I don't know if Vincent or I have made up that sentence, but I like it. It's saying that if results are the children of the project, impacts are the children of the results. So we are providing results, but we can facilitate impact. And that is something that we have to work on, because we have to target who is going to use these results, who can use the results of the project. We'll talk about more about that in the days to come. An example that we gave in the call was, again, in italics, you see the text from the call text from the Commission. And they talk about related infrastructures, and that we may consider developing synergies and complementary capabilities with related infrastructures. PIGWEB deals with pigs, but there are other research infrastructures like Smart Cow, VetBioNet, AquaXcel. They work on animals. They work on experiments with animals. They work on animal welfare. So what we have to do, and what we will do in the 5 years to come, is seek how we can develop these synergies on aspects that concerns veterinary science, fish, and dairy. So what we eventually target is that as a community, not a big community, but as a livestock research community, we would like to see that the things that we are doing are going to be implemented in national roadmaps for the development of research infrastructures. And why not even see larger, the European roadmaps? What should Europe do, consider as a roadmap for research infrastructures dealing with livestock research? And we developed a number of indicators for impacts, but I will not go through that further right now. The implementation, so that you will learn much more about this later on when we talk about the different work packages. But what I will do is give an overview of the overall structure of the different aspects that we deal with. And what you see here is again, the different work packages in blue, green, or transnational access and research infrastructure, which is really the core of the project. And you see a large number of boxes with information that has to be given to others. And what we will try to do is make it as much demand-driven as possible. If you need information from somebody else in the project, express that demand so that we as a consortium management team can say, okay, this is something to be answered by whom? And then we can address that question to the work package leader concerned and make sure that you have a contact. So it will be largely demand driven. Of course, there will be plenty of occasions to have a push driven exchange, but we will want to ensure that everything that you need, express that need, and we will ensure that you have the right contact within the project to respond to that need. We have a governance structure that Laura will talk about more later on. We have the different work packages. We have the coordinator, that's me. We have the project manager, Laura, and INRAE transfer. We have a governing council, which is basically all the partners as members in the consortium. We have an executive committee, the KoM, which are the work package leaders. So, and we have what we call an innovation management council, we will solicit experts, legal experts from your organization to help us in identifying issues that can be used as an innovation and that we may have overseen as an innovation. So they will have a look at everything we produce to ensure that we don't overlook anything, any potential aspect that can have an impact. On the right, you see the Stakeholder Advisory Board, which is a small group of people, but we will develop a stakeholder platform with many more stakeholders that we anticipate could benefit and should benefit from what we're doing. And on the left, you see the European Commission. I will be communicating most of the time with Jimena or her colleagues on these issues. And the TNA, we come back to that later also, we will have a user selection panel to select the projects that we think are most relevant, depending on the criteria that we establish, to be realized in the research and infrastructures in the context of transnational access. And then as in any project, we have milestones and deliverables, 42 milestones where we have to make decisions. Are we going left? Are we going right? Are we going to decrease speed or increase speed? And 34 nicely wrapped up deliverables that we'll have to deliver during the 5 years of the project. We'll come back to that later on, so I will not expand on that, but this is some of the key figures that you need to have for now. So that concludes my presentation or presentations. Questions on the chat?